Hey everybody, so I am doing a backup video. I've been having problems with the Rotary garden, the upper pieces in the frame, the higher I get on it, the harder I'm getting it to be functional and fitting, and the measurements seem more and more off and such. Um, so what I did was I actually had kind of a weird dream last night, and in my 5 seconds of sleeping. Let me find a piece of paper real quick. Poor planning on my part. What else is new? So, when you build something, the thing that's most important is the base. So, if your base is even slightly off, as you get higher, see, my handwriting, because of my shaking, is just bad. Anyway, so the higher you get, whatever the angles are that are minutely off here will make things up here worse. So what had happened so when I built the base, I made the huge mistake of just let me hurry up and cut it and get it done and go from there. So when I cut the pieces, there were little tiny, not the best flat angles to work with. So what happened is that it was making different corners. This is the frame bottom. I took it apart and gonna work from scratch. So I made the biggest blunder of all times, which is if your base is off, everything else is going to be off. Or as they say in houses, now that I want to say the word, I can't remember it, but the base of the house is, if it's bad, the rest of the house is going to have major issues. So anyway, so what I'm doing is, one of the big mistakes I made as well of just cutting quickly was I was using whatever wood was lying around. So I had some, although it was redwood, it was old pieces, and where is everything? I had everything sitting out. Anyway, so what I was doing is the wheel, the big part of the 4x4 that I was using, is I was putting the wheel down here, and see, there's minute cracks. Even though this is pressure treated wood, because the wheels were in like this, when you slide it back and forth, it would kind of like shake it open. Or so I violated my grandfather's rule, which is always cut with the grain, but you don't put things in with the grain of your cut. So because wind, or if you're making a trailer or a play set or whatever, the more rocking motions you have, the screws are just going to go down in between whatever cracks are already started. And on top of that, because I was running out of energy and I was just trying to get things done, I didn't pre-drill my holes. And people say, oh, you don't have to pre-drill your holes. And I'm like, yes you do. Because if you're doing things by hand, your hand makes minute shifts in the hole, and it's going to make the screw go at an angle, and it's always better to use a drill press and pre-press your holes. Now, of course, on houses and things like that, they can't always do that, but like on little projects where you're just making stuff like this, in comparison, it's worth the time to map out your holes. And you can even see what it was doing to the wood, because of even though I was using my Zac screws, which are the ones that are, these don't require pre-drilling. They don't, but when you're trying to make detailed frames and things like that that are going to be, used for detailed things above it, if you don't make the God, what is that word? If you remember that word of what the base of a house is built on, please put it in there. My brain just doesn't want to work. And Boomer's no help. He's good at his job, but when I need him for stuff, he's somewhere else. So, your house is built on a foundation. There we go. If your foundation is crooked, your house is going to be crooked. God, you never know, I almost scored perfect on my GRE. Thanks, chronic fatigue syndrome, woohoo! Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, when you're putting in screws and things like that, don't go this way, because that's what I did. And so the wheels, you know, just get down in the cracks. And see, these are pre-drilled holes. I did pre-drill these. And you can always tell when they're pre-drilled because they don't do this. And when you're at the end of the wood, when you're at the end of the wood, you definitely want to do that, because this is what happens when and I love my the knack screws, whatever they're called, the ones that you don't have to drill with, but they are kind of like a big rock drilling bit, and so in wood it can like rip you open. It's kind of like rape, but it, you know, of the wood, not of people. I don't condone rape at all. Bad word choice. Apologies, everybody. So the key is planning, and if you're too tired or you're frustrated or you're having a bad day, maybe making detailed decisions isn't always the best. In my case, that's pretty much my life, so I have to just do the best I can. So I hope this wisdom helps you a little bit. Also, what was I going to say? Oh, and if you start to see that something's not cutting right, which I'm having a huge problem with my rigid drill thing, or table saw. I'm actually having a couple issues with it. Stuff doesn't line up like it's supposed to, even though I blow all this out and clean it and everything. What it says, like on the measures, don't always do that. And also, this blade will bend and actually make the cuts kind of like, as it cuts, it'll kind of go like this, which is, you know, when you're cutting in, you know, you're pushing the wood in that direction, and then the blade's here, and then for some reason as it gets to the end it kind of like bows, which is really weird. I've taken everything apart and put it back together again, and I don't know, but this was free. I won it, so I'm not complaining. I just end up having to use my grinder a little bit more to get stuff to match up. Oh, and also, I know this has nothing to do with my hydroponics thing, but I'm building a sidecar, I guess you will, for Boomer, for my bike, for two reasons actually. I can't ride the bike very well anymore because my inner ear is all jacked up. So if I have that thing for Boomer on there, he can go with me, and also the balance of that being on the side is kind of like training wheels, but I don't want to call it training wheels. So there you go. Anyway, so key to the thing for the hydroponics base is 1, do good cuts. 2, don't put screws with the grain. Even cutting with the grain is kind of wonky. You shouldn't really do that either, but it's easier to cut against the grain. I hope I got that right. Anyway, so one little edge difference can throw off your whole foundation. Pre-drilling holes is always good. Beveling holes is good. Countersinking, whatever you want to call it. What else? That's it. Eventually I'm going to be using bolts that go through, but right now I just want to get it up and running before my grant submission. So, anything else? Remember, emotions are gifts you give yourself, and nobody can give them and take them away from you. And you guys have a great day, and thank you so much for watching my video.